Time to pull up a chair and talk some Dynasty football. I am your host, JJ Wenner. This is the Rider Dynasty podcast. With me are my co-hosts, Jameson Hutchinson and Joseph Harlow. Tonight, we are recognizing some special players. That's right. It's time for the NFC preseason Roddy Awards. But before we start, don't forget to listen to all of our podcasts and watch all of our shows here at Fantasy and Frames. Head over to fantasyandframes.com for all the latest articles and rankings covering a wide range of topics in the world of fantasy football. Gentlemen, I do want to ask you, though, a little bit. What are your feelings about the Steelers trades? Joe?
I don't care. I don't like it for Pat Freiermuth, but
Do you like it for Jonnu?
No. I think it kind of tanks both of them, honestly. Or tanks as in Jonnu's back to where he was in Atlanta.
All right. So non-fantasy wise, I'm talking to my buddy, Don, the social media Sasquatch, used to be a co-host on this show. Loves football, loves his Steelers. And he thinks these were great moves for the Steelers. He thinks they're all in. That's what I'm hearing, Jameson. What do you think? Like,
are they all
NFL-wise?
Are they all in with like $5? Is that what this is? Aaron Rodgers on his last year, this team has, I felt like, desperately needed a rebuild the last couple of years. They just keep like kind of pushing it down the road. We're going to middle it. They're in the AFC with all the juggernauts at quarterback. So you bring in Jonnu Smith, pair him with Arthur Smith. That is the best 1-2 combo in quite some time. We saw it in Atlanta. We saw it. It just, I don't know, man. I don't get it. The defensive portion of the program, the Jalen Ramsey versus Minkah Fitzpatrick. I think Minkah had some really rough moments last year on defense. I thought he was a lot of the problems for the Steelers. Jalen Ramsey, I still think is pretty interesting, even though he's a little bit older. But fantasy-wise, like Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth, I wasn't in on either of them. But now I'm not even going to consider it. So I just, I don't know, man. The Steelers all-in show, I'm not very impressed. I'd like to see a little bit more before I
I don't see how it makes them better. Like, I think Ramsey's a downgrade from Minkah because I believe that Minkah is kind of how the Jets all just kind of stopped caring last year on defense. I kind of think that's what happened with Minkah. So I do think at this point, being 6 years younger than Ramsey, he's probably a better player at this point. And then, Jonnu gives them a better number 2 or number 3, whatever you want to call him. But like, I don't think it's a fit really. If it was the Jonnu Smith of wide receivers, I don't know who you want to call that.
Could run a lot of 13 personnel. Arthur Smith is just foaming at the mouth with it. But I just
even if it was like a Deebo Samuel level player, like that would make more sense. But Freiermuth is a good tight end, and Rodgers hasn't really been wanting to target the tight ends much lately. So why have 2 of them?
This is the Arthur Smith special. I just get my tongue tied there. I don't know. Steelers have been a very tough watch the last couple of years to begin with, so I don't really have much time for it. If I see them on my screen, I usually turn the TV off or turn on Bluey or whatever I need to do elsewhere. So I just don't have time for Steelers football in the year 2025. I really don't.
Omar, didn't Khan just get a
3-year deal?
3-year deal.
Who cares? For what? Because you traded Chase Claypool for a first-round pick because the Bears are stupid?
I don't know, man.
You tell me. I don't make any sense. Because you didn't sign TJ Watt yet? Is it because you brought in Aaron Rodgers after, he got off the reservation again and, held you at gunpoint because you didn't have any other quarterback options? Well deserved, pal. I wish I could fall upwards as much as some of these other guys do, but unfortunately that's not the case for me.
What a world.
What a world indeed. All right. Well, tonight we continue the preseason Roddy Awards. That's where the Rod Pod honors the offensive players who are going to make us laugh, cry, hopefully cheer this year in redraft leagues. We had some specific rules, but most importantly, we had to choose one player from each position group. And to make it even harder, we split it up by conferences. Last week, we did the AFC. If you missed that, go to Fantasy and Frames on YouTube. Make sure you catch that. And tonight, we are tackling the NFC. So to start, I'd like to introduce our first award of the evening, the Sydney Sweeney Award for the biggest bust of the season. This award is for players ranked by fantasy pros in the top 4 tiers who will let us down this year. Jameson, who is your nominee for this award?
I think one of the biggest bust of them all is Kyler Murray. I just can't do this again. He is easily one of the most frustrating, annoying, pain in the asses that God has ever created in fantasy football.
So how do you feel about him?
Yeah, I'm not sure how you feel.
It just, I guess I get to the stats here, but only 5 top 10 finishes last year. He also had 5 finishes outside the top 20. So this is a player that if he is not hitting on those weeks, he's not even startable. This is not even like he's got a safe floor with the rushing upside. He's just, he averaged 18 points a game last year, but if anybody who actually had him on fantasy football saw that stat, they would call bullshit on it. I'm just going to call it how I see it. It's not 8. It's just the up and down average. He somehow gets to 18. Ever since 2020, his big breakout year, his points per game has just constantly gone down. It's started at like 24. Now it's about 18. So it's about losing about 2 points a year. The rushing aspect, the portion of the program, I know he rushed 4th overall in quarterbacks last year, but even the rushing aspect, that's what we care about in fantasy. It's always the quarterbacks with the rushing upside. It's just not there for Kyler Murray. So he ends up in the quarterback, tier that's just, he's above Jared Goff, he's above Caleb Williams, Brock Purdy, Prescott, Jordan Love. There are so many other quarterbacks that I would rather have. And the other thing about this Kyler Murray experiment is just the offense. Nothing has changed over the offseason unless the back shoulder fade between him and Marvin Harrison Jr. has gotten better. I doubt it has because Kyler Murray stinks, but he doesn't push the ball downfield. He's been wildly inaccurate. They're trying to run the ball with James Conner. They've had some success with it. I think Kyler Murray just sucks as regular real-life quarterback. I think he's the most annoying fantasy quarterback, and it's my fault that I bought into this last year. Instead of listening myself, I listened to Twitter that Marvin Harrison Jr. was the greatest of all time. That's my fault, and I'm just not going to make this mistake again. No, absolutely not.
Listen, I can't disagree with you. Kyler Murray was my Scott Fishbowl quarterback last year.
Miserable
so
experience.
Frustrating. Miserable experience. You're absolutely right. Absolutely miserable. And not only is he your nominee for the biggest bust, as Brandon says, he's also one of the smallest little tiny ones.
Brandon with some heaters in the comments already.
Yeah, he's coming in hot.
Yeah, I like it.
I don't know who was. There's that one video of the female softball player, I think, throwing hats into the crowd. I forget who that was, but heck of an arm.
Better than Kyler's. Right. So,
well, Kyler has a good arm. He just can't see over the line.
That's the other part of it. It just last year I had in Superflex him and Drake May, and I know Drake May's been getting some hype, but like Drake May's floor, you close your eyes, he got you 15 points, and I would rather do that experiment than Kyler Murray, where I either get 25 or I get 5 if I'm lucky, and it's the 3:00 window. Arizona ends up, it's like one of the 3 games. So you're just sitting there in misery on a Sunday afternoon, having to watch this experiment, just hoping that Kyler hits Trey McBride for the 15th time. So I'm not doing this again. Absolutely not.
All right. Well, Joe, Jameson came in hot with his choice. Who is your nominee?
I'm going to go with Sam Laporta on the tight end position. Part of this is because I was the last one in the dock, and some spoilers, but the tight ends you two took were my first and second options. So panicked a little bit. I was like, I'll grab this guy. Dang it, JJ got him. Here's my backup. Damn it, Jameson. So, yeah, Laporta is someone I've always been a little lower on, and he was worse in 2024 than 2023, of course, but I think some of the panic alarms were far too much. I think he was terrible now, but I think he just kind of last year was what he was. Just solid player, nothing crazy. I don't think he's a crazy talent or anything. He finished points per game, tied in 8, which I think is actually where he's ranked, right, overall. Or he's up at tight end 4, which I just think is a little too high. There's some of the guys below him. And a lot of it is maybe, I would take him over Tucker Kraft, Jake Ferguson, Dallas Goedert. But I don't want to spend that level of capital to get him. I don't want to take him 3 rounds ahead of those guys, sort of deal. My big concern here is that Amon-Ra St. Brown he's going to be a target vacuum. Jahmyr Gibbs is the best player on the offense, skill position-wise. I think he's going to be fed immensely. Jameson Williams broke out, and I think that's just a more dangerous threat and fits what Jared Goff wants to do more. So I think Laporta, I think, is the 4th option on the team. So with Ben Johnson there, I would have been still fine taking him and pretty high. But right now, I don't want to spend a huge capital on the 4th option on a team with a new offensive coordinator and with an aging. And I'm worried about Jared Goff a little bit. Just the line is falling apart a little bit, and Ben Johnson isn't there. The combination of those, I just kind of want to stay off of those secondary, tertiary weapons.
I can't disagree with you at all. Jameson, do you have any Sam Laporta love in your heart?
I think he's okay. The problem is I feel like we're paying the price for what he did 2 years ago. And that's just you're in this real weird dynamic where you're either taking Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, or George Kittle, or for me, I'm just gonna wait. I don't want to pay for Laporta. I don't want to pay for Hawkinson. I think in that range in redraft, there's still so many good wide receivers and running backs to the point where I don't want to pay this price because I don't think they have the upside of some of these other guys. And if I'm not paying up for those tight ends I just listed, I'd just rather go a little farther than pay these mid-round prices for Sam Laporta. So I like Sam Laporta. I think he's fine. I think we're still paying for what he did 2 years ago. And that's for that reason, I'm out.
All right. Well, Brandon has a pretty good question in the comments. Maybe off topic, but if the Ravens, Lions, and Bucks were the top 3 offenses by yards a game last year, what teams could move into that top 3 range to displace them? Well, that's a good question. So who do we think are going to be the top? Who are some of your thoughts as a top offense? Do you think Chicago?
Not quite. If they had a better running back.
Okay.
I have a little bit of a wild card. I don't know if this would be totally frowned upon, but the Falcons, I think, are very interesting. I think Michael Penix's just going to sling it. So you have him, you have Bijan. I think that could be kind of fun and kind of get there. Be better if they had I like Darnell Mooney, but it just, I really think it's going to go through Drake London, and it's in the NFC South. All the defenses are pretty iffy to begin with. Yeah. And one other one for me, I would say Dallas. We'll get to them in a little bit, but I really like the setup on offense. I know the running backs are a little goofy, but I just think Dak Prescott is lined up to do some big things this year.
What do you think about the Rams? Any chance the Rams could?
If Stafford stays healthy, if he stays healthy, I think that's very realistic. I think the Bills have to be thrown out there. The Bengals, of course, especially if their defense continues to suck, then they're just going to need to keep doing it.
By all off-season moves, it looks like they will.
So,
Green Bay, I think, is another sneaky team to throw in there.
Just because they're so deep at wide receiver, and they're going to spread that ball out, which is bad for fantasy, but good for overall, right?
Then Josh Jacobs is awesome.
Yeah. It would be nice to see Jordan Love bounce back a little bit. All right, gentlemen.
Good point from Brandon here. Offensive line matters. A lot of people in dynasty leagues ignore the offensive line, but you can't. It's massive. Why do you think the Eagles are so good?
It really is. My buddy Doug Orth, shameless plug, over at FF Today does a great job breaking down every offensive lineman and every offensive line in general, ranks them. He did both the AFC and the NFC. Give it a look. I always have that ranking up when I'm drafting because it helps me break ties. But
I think it's worthwhile. The offensive line is something I always look at as far as fantasy goes, and for some people who get really excited about some of these players, kind of, for example, the new rookie running back in Pittsburgh. They have Caleb Johnson. Offensive, Caleb Johnson, just the offensive environment. That's always something that I think about. Offensive line is kind of but everybody's super excited about him just in general. But I think it's a good point here about offensive line and what gets tied into it.
Probably factors into your pick here, JJ, doesn't it?
Oh, very good segue, future host of the pod. That was very well done. Let's talk about Jackson Smith-Njigba. He's an exciting player. I'm generally optimistic about his long-term outlook. I've got him stashed on a few teams, and I like him. But when I see him ranked as the wide receiver 12 with an ADP wide receiver 14, I get a little bit nervous. Now, last year, he had his moments. 5 wide receiver 1 weeks, fantastic. 2 wide receiver 2 weeks, that's great. 2 wide receiver 3 weeks, okay. But in the other 8 games, he averaged a wide receiver 58 finish. That's wide receiver 5 territory. I know every wide receiver has down weeks, but in nearly half of his games, JSN actively hurt your lineup. He hurt you. He hurt your chances to win. Now, the team has moved on from Geno Smith to Sam Darnold. Sure, Sam had a few bright spots, but we all saw what happened at the end of the year. When the defenses brought the pressure, he folded, and when he folded, the offense folded. And speaking of pressure, that offensive line is rough. Rookie Gray Zabel might be the best hope. Charles Cross at tackle is serviceable, but as my buddy Doug Orth pointed out in his O-line breakdown, even Cross gave up 6 sacks and 47 pressures last season. This is a problem. And it's not just Doug. Fantasy Points ranks their Seahawks O-line 30th, and CBS Sports' Kyle Long called the unit, quote, dangerously concerning.
Wow.
It's not great, Jim. So add in the fact that this team wants to be run first. It's just hard to see the volume or consistency needed for JSN to return wide receiver 1 value. So while I like the player, I don't see him living up to that ranking. It's more likely that he's going to finish in the lower end of wide receiver 2 territory. So take that for what it was, what you think. What do you gentlemen think about JSN?
I completely agree. Oh, go ahead, Jameson.
No, I was going to say I like JSN a lot as a player, but just seeing the names Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, AJ Brown in the same realm, it's just really hard. I get your point there totally. So I like him. I think he can kind of set up nicely. Even if the Seahawks aren't necessarily great, the offensive line's been a problem for the last several years. But just the target competition outside of him, there's Torrey Holton, the rookie. Brought in Cooper Kupp, but Rams love Cooper Kupp and let him walk. I think that says a lot about how they feel about him in 2025. So I like JSN just fine. I think he sets up well, but there's just other guys in this area that I'd rather take a swing on.
Yep.
All right. Well, the next award up is the Ice Cube Award for Sleeper So Deep.
How deep?
How deep?
So deep I can't finish that line. This award is for players who are going to surprise you with their finish, like a nice bourbon. The criteria for this was a little more complicated. So QBs needed to be in the 6th tier or lower, according to Fantasy Pros. All other positions were 7th or lower. So, Joe, who is your nominee?
I'm going to go with someone who I think I actually had him as here last year for we did the show. I know I brought him up on one show, but that is the now Vikings running back 2, Jordan Mason. Mason for PFF was the 23rd best running back rushing, had the 23rd best rushing grade amongst all running backs last year, in some limited work with the Niners while Christian McCaffrey was out. Had a couple games where he just absolutely blew up. I think the first couple of games of the year, he was on pace for being a running back one, if not the running back one, a few weeks. So again, 100 plus yards in 3 of the first 4 games with 3 touchdowns in that sample size. Over the first 6 weeks of the season, he had 73 yards was the minimum. So Aaron Jones is ahead of him. And actually, I think Aaron Jones played every game last year, right? Or missed maybe one.
Close to it.
That is not the norm for him. And now that he's on the wrong side of 30, don't expect him to really continue that. And Aaron Jones has always been best as a running back 1A or 1B, not as a bell cow. He's one of those guys similar to, but better than like a Tony Pollard, where he's much better. If he has 15 touches a game as opposed to 25, he will have more fantasy points and just he'll be more efficient, less tired, more explosive, used more as in the passing game. So Mason, I think they gave up decent capital for him. I think a 4th round pick, and which for NFL trade wise is actually a lot. And they signed him to a 2-year deal. So I do think they're going to give him some real run. I think he could potentially take over as the 1A to Jones's 1B flexibility. The issue here is if Mason continues to fumble the ball, then this kind of goes out the window. But KOC in this offense, another one who, if JJ McCarthy hits, could be one of those top 3 offenses pretty easily. I think Mason, especially, he is at running back. Where'd he go? Running back 40. That's a shot I'm willing to take. Similar, he's behind Javonte Williams, Zach Charbonnet, Rashad White, Tyrone Tracy, all of whom might be the team's running back 2. So on far worse offenses. I guess maybe not the Cowboys, but different conversation. So Mason's one of those guys. I think he's just really freaking good. Take a shot on him this late.
Yeah, I love that call. Doug talks about Jordan Mason on every show. It's sort of like his contractual obligation. It's starting to get a little bit annoying, but he loves Jordan Mason, and if he loves somebody that much, go along. Yeah. And Aaron Jones did start every game last year. So, Any thoughts, J-Mo?
I like him, and I just like the Minnesota offense. I think they're going to try to run a little bit more this year. It was something that they tried doing last year. They just didn't have any success. They sent a lot of improvements on the offensive line. I think they're going to try their best to help J.J. McCarthy out. I think he's going to be a very good fantasy asset just in general. But, I mean, Jordan Mason was really good. The offensive line's better. Aaron Jones, it seems like they're trying to save him. He ended up getting ran into the ground by the end of the year. I know he started most games, but he was like getting kicked out of some of them. He'd get hurt. He'd miss the second half. I think they're just trying to hope that, Jordan Mason can take some of this workload and, kind of preserve Aaron Jones to, especially get him there to the end of the year so he doesn't fade out.
If both could have 15-ish touches, targets, rushes a game, I think both could be in the running back 20 to 28 range, which I think is pretty low for both of them. Pretty high for both of them.
So Brandon brings up that Christian Kirk might be a sleeper.
Potentially. Yeah. There's a lot of hype on those rookies, but rookie receivers, especially out of a weird Iowa State offense, could take some time.
Could definitely take a minute or two. Now, for me, you guys have to tell me, is it cheating if I choose Matthew Stafford?
Why is that cheating?
I don't know. I just kind of feel like it is. I mean, he's going off the board at QB 22. I know he's older. He's been banged up. The narrative is that he's fragile. But if he's washed, why are both of his top receivers being drafted so highly? I mean, Puka Nacua is the wide receiver 6. Devontae is the wide receiver 17. Higbee is among that motley crew after the top 3 at tight end. And now you have Turd Ferguson coming in there, joining the mix as another pass catcher. And Sean McVay is still calling plays, right? Like the last thing I noticed.
Last I checked, yeah.
He hasn't retired yet.
So it's a new, I mean, the offense is going to want to move the ball. I mean, I just talked about them a little bit earlier. So, I mean, if you look at the numbers, once Puka came back in week 8 of last season, Stafford was the QB 14 for the rest of the season. It's better than Caleb. It's better than Brock, and it's better than Love, all of whom are getting drafted ahead of him. I'm not saying, don't put words in my mouth, Jameson, that you should reach for him. But if you're grabbing him as like the QB 18 after you pick up somebody like Dak, like that's a pretty good deal, right? That's smart business. I just think he's going to be a solid value this year.
I think so. I think Devontae Adams coming to town actually ends up being better than what Cooper Kupp was last year for him. And I think Stafford could just end up throwing a bunch of touchdowns. He can do what Aaron Rodgers used to do with Devontae Adams in the red zone, just throw it off. Because Puka Nacua has not been that great in the red zone. He's done everything else really well, but in the red zone, catching touchdowns hasn't been his thing. Yeah. So I think Matt Stafford ends up being like a really safe play, especially like later where you don't have to spend much capital. It's not like people are eyeing to go try to steal him from you. So I think Matt Stafford ends up being safe. I think he's better than what he was last year. I don't think he's washed at all.
Agreed. The injuries it's concerning, multiple back, neck, shoulder stuff or things, but I do agree Devontae, the biggest issue with him the past couple of years has been the touchdowns with 24 and 20 over the last 2 years. Still fine numbers, but keeping him out of the QB1 conversation since he doesn't run. But yeah, I think having Devontae, they seem to be slowly cooling on Kyren, at least as like a full-time bell cow. I like Jarquez Hunter a lot, but I don't think he's not going to be as good on the goal line as Kyren is. So having Devontae, I think, could see that tick up from 20 to 26, 27. The combination of Devontae being a real number 2 that you can rely on for 12 plus games, unlike Kupp. And yeah, I think it's going to be good for him.
Yeah, and even when Puka misses a game or two, like he always does, now you have Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Like you can still run an offense with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jameson, who is your Ice Cube Award winner?
I feel like this is also cheating a little bit, but my Ice Cube sleeper for 2025 is George Pickens at wide receiver 35. What a fun landing spot for George Pickens. I think this is probably the biggest move of the offseason as far as like best fit. I think he's a perfect fit complement to CeeDee Lamb, and I think he fits a lot what Dak wants to do really well, which is, those seam routes. I think George Pickens will be there at the end of it. Takes the pressure off CeeDee Lamb, which he didn't have last year. He had, Fonte Turpin and whatever else, Jake Ferguson for a little bit. But last year in Pittsburgh, on 103 targets, he had 900 yards and 3 touchdowns with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields thrown to him, which I think is exceptional given the circumstances that he was put through. We know right now that the run game in Dallas is pretty iffy. It's Javonte Williams, it's Miles Sanders, it's Jaden Blue. I just think they're going to throw the ball. I don't think that Brian Schottenheimer is going to do Marty ball. I think he's just going to have Dak just sit there and throw it. And I think this duo could end up in that A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison range of outcomes. I think both these guys can hit. If anything happens, CeeDee Lamb, I think, is a monster thing for George Pickens. And this is probably one of my top 3 picks this entire year. This is a guy who I'm going to probably end up being way overweight on, and just a guy that I'm going to constantly target in this round. Other guys that go around him, it just, Tedro McMillan, he's a rookie, goes ahead of him. Jordan Addison, Roma Dunze, Chris Olave, Marvin Harrison Jr. goes ahead of him, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Terry McLaurin and DJ Moore, I know they're number 1s on their team compared to George Pickens being number 2, but I just think George Pickens has that upside, and I think he's a perfect fit for Dallas. I think he's a perfect complement to CeeDee Lamb, and I think he's a perfect fit for what Dak wants to do this year.
I well said.
I appreciate it. Doing something right. I think
it is. And I think, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think top 20 receiver easily, and I think he can sneak in top 15. And CeeDee Lamb can still get there as well. Probably a little bit of a hot take, but I just don't see. I think they can both hit and be just fine. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase do it every year. I don't see why this tandem can't do it either.
I mean, hell, DK and Lockett would do it.
Yep.
With Geno Smith. I mean, yeah, if Dak is back there slinging it, and I know this is like the good of his every other year where he shows up. Like this is the good year for Dak. So as long as we get that Dak and Schottenheimer doesn't F it up, which there is a non-zero chance that Schottenheimer will.
I don't know. It's going to be Dak's offense more than Schottenheimer's offense. Dak's one of the, if not the smartest quarterback in the league, especially pre-snap. So I wouldn't be worried there. My concern here is just George Pickens is kind of a, I don't know what kind of word to say for him, but
knucklehead.
Sure.
Call him a diva.
Malcontent.
A diva.
Yeah.
Idiot.
Jackass. Something.
Okay. I didn't know we were going to cuss on the show.
Sorry.
Fuck not. I don't know.
Too far.
Just too. Oh, that was too. No. That was too far. I'm sorry.
That's the line. No.
I like my wide receivers with a little bit of diva in them. I think they play better that way. Randy Moss was a diva. He turned out all right.
Yeah, but
George Pickens isn't close to that talent, though.
I know. I'm just
no. But I get it. It's just he's one of those guys who it's tough, as I talk about a lot. No block, no rock, and Pickens will only block if he's trying to hurt a defensive player, and it doesn't actually end up being effective blocking.
Well,
if it being a contract year and new team, feels like he was discarded. I could totally see him being on, but I think when he's off, he's completely unplayable. However, at wide receiver 34, I think that's well worth the risk. I mean, that's what, 6th, 7th round, 8th round. I think that's absolutely worth the upside shot.
And again, worse than being unplayable, he's downright destructive to a team.
Yeah. At the same time, unlike a lot of guys, when he's off, you kind of know he's off and you can easily bench him. He's one where I don't know if this might just be me, but if he goes off on my bench, I'm not super upset because I know there's just as much of a chance he goes one catch for -3 yards. So I think it's absolutely worth the risk. And if Dak is on and healthy, CD's doing his thing, Jameson said it right. He's a great fit. There's no running game. I mean, why can't he be T. Higgins? So
there's no reason. Talent is there.
We see Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown do it almost every year. And there's no run with a great running game there. And Dak is a better passer than Jalen Hurts. So, if he's going where Marvin Harrison's going at wide receiver 21, I'd be concerned. But again, mid-30s, hell yeah.
Yep. So I think it's possible. This is the type of swing that I want to take on, and we're going to have some weekly check-ins. I'm going to talk with George and make sure everything's all right. And if I know he's not all right, I'll come on here every Thursday, let everybody know, and we can plan accordingly. But I feel good this year. Here we go.
Doing the Lord's work out there, JMO.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate it.
Had it known you were working with him, crank it up.
Well, it explains a little bit about his behavior last year.
Oh, come on.
No, when I'm around you, I act up. Let's be honest.
Well, sounds like a personal problem.
It is a personal problem. But now a word from our sponsor, so be good. Make sure you download and subscribe to the Fast Draft app today using the promo code FRAMES. Which will earn you a first-time deposit match of up to $50 in credits. From their Origins game, where you draft only rookies, their Flex 4 game, where you pick your favorite players for the upcoming season, and their D-Up game, which is just like Flex 4, but with IDP Fantasy Football players only. That's not for you, Jameson.
I know.
This 20-second timer, PPR formatted, 6-round best ball draft game is perfect for those on the go, but itching to get their fantasy football draft fix satisfied. Again, that's promo code FRAMES, which will earn you a first-time deposit match of up to $50 in credits. The Fast Draft app. Start drafting faster.
Very
All
nice.
right, gentlemen. Thank you.
Before we get into the next category, I have a question. Sorry to hijack a little bit. With George Pickens in the room now, what do you guys think that does for Jake Ferguson? Because I actually think that's a benefit for him, and he's going to be a little better.
I mean, none of us are going to talk about Ferguson. I am shocked when I look at ADP to where Ferguson is going. He is tight end 14. Wait, no, am I wrong? No, 12.
12.
Tight end 12 in ADP. I think that's very low for him.
Yeah.
When he's healthy and Dak is healthy, I mean, Dak loves a tight end.
Yep.
And I mean, he's had multiple weapons there. He has supported 2 wide receivers and a great tight end. And there is no running game to speak of there. So, yeah, I agree. I think all things can be true. Lamb can have a good year. Pickett can have a good year, and so can Ferguson.
Ferguson was one of those names I was really considering. I just wanted to kind of keep teams a little different. He was probably first one out for me.
I think Ferguson can get there this year. So I think he ends up being kind of the wide receiver 3. We see Dak lock onto him. I mean, and there's going to be so much pressure keeping Pickens and Lamb contained that, I mean, I think Ferguson will be there, and I think he's startable probably mostly every week, especially if you're somebody who kind of punts the position. I think he ends up being him, Goddard, before you get into this pretty ugly tier. I think he just goes a little too low. Tight end's weird. It's always something different every year, but tight end position's always weird. But I think Jake Ferguson ends up being a great click here.
Yeah, I'm not worried about him losing time to Luke Schoonmaker, and I love Jalen Tolbert as a 4th option, but he's a 4th option. I think Fergie, tight end 8-ish, I think could be one of those steals of the draft.
Can't disagree with you at all. All right, gentlemen. Our third award. Sorry, I'm talking weird. Oh. Our third award of the evening is the Denny Green They Are Who We Thought They Were award. This award is for the player who is going to be exactly what we think they are. The ADP isn't lying. They're not a sleeper. They're not a smash. They're just what we think. It could be good. It could be bad. And I don't know. If you guys have lights at home, maybe turn them down a little bit. And I hope you're alone for this next part, because I'm about to talk about a player who might get you excited. So let's light some candles, put on some smooth jazz, and let's talk about the other B. Robinson, the Commander's own Brian Robinson Jr. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Stop all that. Nobody is getting hot and bothered over Brian Robinson, except maybe his wife. And if so, here's to you, Mrs. Robinson. Jesus loves you more than you will know. Whoa. Anyway.
How long have you been waiting to use that?
A long time, my friend.
Well, good work.
Time. Thank you.
You nailed it.
Thank you. Anyway, Robinson's current ADP is RB30, and he's ranked RB31. That feels about right. Last season, guess where he finished? RB29. Consistent, if nothing else. So how did Washington respond to that terrible finish? They invested heavily with a 7th-round pick in Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Sure, I know there's some buzz about the rookie. Doug and I just texted all about him last night. But let's not crown him. Yeah, back to right. Crown him. Just yet. He was a day 3 dart throw. So just breathe a little bit. Sure, fantasy football's favorite, Austin Eckler, is still in town. But outside of his rookie season, he
so far.
For now.
He hasn't been escorted off the property yet.
No, his badge is still working. But outside of his rookie year, he just posted a career low in carries and targets. So it's not nothing. So what can you expect from Brian Robinson this year? Well, probably 200 carries, 800 yards, and 5 TDs. Just what he always does. Nothing sexy, but steady. So laugh about it, shout about it, Every way you look at it, you lose. Now, that's another quote from Simon and Garfunkel, in case you didn't.
You're in your bag right now. Goodness
I
gracious.
am. I was feeling good. When I was writing this the other day. I miss writing, if I'm being honest. But back to Brian Robinson, now that the lights are up. J-Mo, you have that look about your eyes. What do you think?
Brian Robinson is literally just a guy. I think that is about as I can't really say anything more or anything less. He ends up in this tier like if you've totally whiffed at running back, he's staring at you, and you take it home, just kind of close your eyes and just leave it at that. That's
right.
All I can see.
It's the end of the night in a bar, right? The lights start coming up. You look around, there's only one person left in you. And you're both like, eh?
And that's Brian Robinson Jr., everybody.
Eh.
So comes with a gunshot wound, unfortunately, but other than that, I'm just saying.
I was about to say something so terribly inappropriate.
Joe, what do you think about Brian Robinson? Get me out of here.
Thank you.
I don't care, which is kind of the point. He is the Jag. So he is exactly what we think he is. So this is across both shows. This is the perfect Denny Green Award winner.
Thank you. I appreciate your guys' support. Jameson, who is your Denny Green Award winner?
My nominee for Denny Green Award goes to Dallas Goedert at tight end 14. Just feels like every single year Dallas Goedert ends up in the same tier. It's the same rank. He's the target that if you didn't pay for the top tight ends, he's just sitting right there looking at you. Just say, come pick me if you want an okay time. You're not going to get too high. You're not going to get too low. You might have to deal with a little bit of injury history. Missed 7 games last year, but he's a tight end that has some upside if Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown get hurt. We saw that, but last year, the Eagles just didn't pass because they didn't have to. They had Saquon and Jalen Hurts. He ends up okay. He's a guy who gets 4 or 5 targets a game. You hope that he gets a touchdown. If he doesn't, you have a couple points. It's not a 0. At the end of the year, he's going to have 500 to 700 yards. He's probably going to have no more than 5 touchdowns. And he ends up in tight end 10 to 15 range. So that is Dallas Goedert. That's the Dallas Goedert experience. And that's what he is. Nothing more, nothing less.
For a mad time call.
Yeah. Whatever Philadelphia's area code is.
It would be 215 or 267, possibly some 484 thrown in there. Right. But you're right. 10 games last year, 14 the year before, 12 before that. All right. He always misses a handful. Joe, where are you at on him?
This is a great pick. If anything, I'd move him a little higher, but I think tier-wise makes absolute sense. He's very T-Ferg to me, honestly. Or sorry, Jake Ferguson. Too many Fergusons now.
Way too many Fergusons.
Too many, but I think he's a better football player. I'd put him borderline top 4 tight ends in the league from a pure on-field perspective. But fantasy-wise, similar to Ferguson, just I think the 2 wide receivers in Philly are a little better, plus the running game is significantly better, and then the quarterback's a little worse. So, yeah, but.
All right, Joe, who's your Denny Green Award winner?
You guys have stayed super on brand with guy exactly just perfect. I'm going to go probably the most poorly discussed player, someone who every discussion about him is just not what he is at all. But fantasy-wise, Caleb Williams is exactly where he should be. He is quarterback 12, right in the middle of tier 5 with guys like Jared Goff, Brock Purdy, Dak, Love. Just NFC-wise, AFC, throw Herbert, May in there, and the 2 good AFC South quarterbacks. Again, the conversation around Caleb is always just never really what he actually is, just that he freelances too much, but really, if he freelanced more last year, would have been better. The Bears put so much on him last year. It was honestly the fact that he didn't die was impressive. He was calling plays at the line of scrimmage, audibles. He was setting protections, which guys like Jalen Hurts doesn't do that. Baker Mayfield doesn't do that. Some of the top quarterbacks in the league don't do this. And he was doing it as a rookie with a dog crap offensive line. We have a comment here from Brandon again that Bears did do a lot to add to the offensive line, which they very much did. Is it going to be perfect? No, it won't be. But it's one of those guys isn't going to work out. But the weapons have improved. I think even an issue with them last year was also that Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze, and DJ Moore all commanded a huge volume of targets. Does the receiver room look more imposing now with move out Keenan Allen, move Cole Kmet to the bench, and add in Colson Loveland and Luther Burden? Yes, but I don't think Keenan Allen has an aura to him where he has to be the main target on a certain number of passes. He just has the vibe, the aura. That's why he signed there, or I guess was traded there. But you're not going to have that with Luther Burden. You're not going to have that with Colson Loveland, both rookies. He's going to be in a significantly better offense. Now, the issues with the offensive line are still very real, which is why I don't think he should be catapulted into that where Kyler Murray is, though. If you swap them, I think that, as we talked about earlier with Jameson's favorite player, I think that's totally reasonable. But I think this is a really good job by the fantasy community for not killing a generational talent while also not going crazy with like the praise for him with improvements everywhere. I think borderline low end quarterback 1. If he's 9 to 15, that feels perfect for Caleb. So good job, fantasy community. You didn't overreact too much.
Yay. Yeah. Much like I think the actual NFL teams, I think everybody just is sort of getting it now. Mm-hmm. Right? Like granted, I'm not saying about like scouting quarterbacks. People still go a little bit crazy, but yeah, he's about exactly what we thought he was. He had so much thrown on his plate. I know there was all that offseason chatter that they would just put him in a film room and say, watch. But it is a good point. Like, what does that mean to watch film? I know I'm not a film guy, and I'm always amazed at people who are like, yeah, I'm a film guy. What do you mean you're a film guy? Like, do you even know what you're watching? Like, I watch football games. That doesn't make me a film guy. Like, do you even know what you're looking at? That's why, like, Joe, like, when you talk about watching film, I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, I didn't see that at all. So I don't know. I'm interested to see what Caleb does with a competent coaching staff around him. That you're going to see the offensive line regress towards average a little bit, right? Like They don't have to be amazing. Ben Johnson knows how to do it. So I'm looking forward to see what he does.
One of the things that really shaped the way I view the league, NFL and fantasy-wise, came from Nate Tice, one of the ultimate film guys. Just the bar from crap to average is one of the biggest changes you can make for an NFL team. It's significantly more important than going from good to great, but just going from not playable to decent is, no one talks about it. It's not sexy, but if you can be competent elsewhere, that can make the entire difference for a team.
Well, the check the mic guys, I don't know if you guys, the former PFF guys, they talk about that all the time with offensive line. You don't need to sign the top offensive tackle. They always joke about Morgan Moses. Like, no, that's a great tackle.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You're going to get hit a couple times, but for the most part, he's going to do exactly what you want him to do. And he doesn't have to be an all-star, but just
best right tackle for 10 years.
Just not sucking is sometimes enough.
Yeah. See a Bryce Young experience last year. I mean, the Panthers went from terrible to just good enough. And you saw Bryce Young do what he did, what he was supposed to be when he got drafted number 1 overall. So, yeah, it really doesn't take much. Just don't end up in the bottom of the barrel and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. I like that conversation.
I think that's a really big thing with Jaden Daniels last year is that the team was fine. And wherever the coaches did a great job getting average out of a not great roster. So Texans approach. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all you need. I mean, and I know we haven't talked about, I don't think, any Texans yet tonight, and I don't think we're going to.
They're
there's a lot of that's probably why. There's a lot of complaints about that they got rid of Tunsil last year, like after last year.
I think it's overblown.
I agree with you. And everybody on that team seems happy that he's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's enough, right? This addition by subtraction. And everybody's on the same page and they're all doing the same thing. I'm interested to see how they improve this year or if it is a complete dumpster fire. Either way.
It's not like Tunsil's the top left tackle in the league like he was 3-4 years ago. Like with Randy Moss when he left teams, or Terrell Owens, like those guys were at the top of their craft. So you can deal with it. But
yeah. All right. Last award is the Matt Donnelly Memorial Award for Best Stash. I'm just kidding. He's alive and well. This award is for players who you will want to keep in Dynasty. We are a Dynasty podcast for next year, or on speed dial in Redraft. Eligible players were ranked by Fantasy Pros in the 10th tier or below. So these are low-ranked guys who you might want to keep around. Jameson, who's your guy?
I'm going to go right back to Philadelphia and the handcuff to the best running back in football in Will Shipley. Running back 77, I think, is absolutely egregious. I'm very surprised that he is this low. They lose Kenneth Gainwell. He's not back, but they bring in Quadzilla himself, A.J. Dillon. If you've seen A.J. Dillon play professional football, there's really nothing to worry about. So you get Will Shipley, who was really productive at Clemson. You have just the Saquon portion of it, for over 400 carries last year. We have seen this time and time again, these guys who end up having huge volume the year before, and they come in the next year. Especially then, they won the Super Bowl. He's got like an extra month to not recover and come back to full health. So you end up with Will Shipley, who ends up being probably the best handcuff to. We always talk about Tyler Algier and Isaac Guerrero, but Will Shipley, nobody's talking about him. He's got no competition. They played Washington in the NFC Championship. He ripped off a long one in garbage time. I know it's garbage time, but he can do some of the stuff that Saquon did. He's also the last game when Saquon missed in the regular season. They played the Giants. He had some receiving chops to him. So a lot of the stuff, I'm not comparing him to Saquon Barkley, but the stuff that Saquon does, I mean, Will Shipley can do as well. So he's behind guys like Kendre Miller and Trevor Etienne, the rookie. I just I don't understand this. Kyle Monungai, who might be running back 3 for Chicago. Devin Singletary. I mean, my God, this is disrespectful. This is what this is.
That's absurd.
So, especially in redraft. I mean, if you are not clicking on Will Shipley towards the end of your drafts, you are not drafting correctly. You are not playing the game right. You need to be better. You need to listen to what I have to say right now. You need to draft Will Shipley. Set it and forget it. You will thank me later. This is the easiest. It doesn't cost you nothing. You don't have to do anything. Just let him fall to you. You click submit. It makes a little sound. Say, oh, you just got him. You can thank me later. Venmo, PayPal, I don't care. You can pay me. I don't care. This is just, I cannot believe he is RB77 for the handcuff to the best running back in football. It makes no sense.
Jameson's going to have the best
last year.
Jameson's going to have the best Patreon channel ever. All it is a gif of him saying, pick Will Shipley. Pick Will Shipley. $6 a month, please.
Yeah. Set it and forget it. But
our friend Jody Smith wrote a great article about, running backs usage and how they follow it up the next year. Does not look great for Saquon. In fact, every year that Saquon has had a healthy year, he's like the Dak Prescott. He's followed it up with missing some games. So you're right. I mean, Will Shipley behind the best offensive line in the league. One of the best.
Top tier, at least.
Top tier.
Isaac Guerrero goes 30 spots ahead of him. That makes no sense.
No sense.
I know CMC is great. And I think Brandon brings up a great point. I think that they are going to play Will Shipley more than they played Kenneth Gainwell a little bit. And there's no reason to run Saquon into the ground, especially after what he did last year. So I just, I'm so disappointed in the people
It's insulting.
It is criminal.
It is.
Yeah.
So
really.
But if you were not taking advantage of this generational wealth opportunity, this is like buying Bitcoin.
Now you sound like Saquon Barkley at that event he spoke at.
Yeah. So I just it's just unbelievable. Trey Benson, 30 spots ahead. Who? We did this. It's just I don't get it. But maybe I'm the moron. You guys can let me know if I'm. I don't know. Flabbergasted is the word on this Will Shipley ranking.
You say Radagast?
Flabbergasted.
The guy from Lord of the Rings?
I'm not in my Frodo bag. I'm not in my Frodo bag. I don't know.
All right.
You're Bilbo Baggins.
No, I saw what you did there. All right, Joe. Who is your nominee?
Well, I'm going to round out my NFC North streak, apparently. I'm a little scared of this one, but again, we're talking 10th tier or lower. We're going to go to Green Bay and go with Dontavian Wicks. A little sticking to priors here, I'm not going to lie, but up until the ball has to get to his hands, he's so good. So good.
Until he actually has to work, everything's great.
Yeah, basically. Really good at all levels. Looking at Matt Harmon's reception perception, he dominates routes, for vertical routes, corners, outs, the short stuff, slants, screens, etc. Really good after the catch. He has a really good rapport with Jordan Love. Again, if he can catch the ball. The big thing is the catching. I think he has the second worst drop rate of any receiver over the past, I think Matt Harmon said in his database, which is like almost 10 years at this point. The worst was Romeo Doubs as I think a rookie. So Packers have a type. It's one of those where, yeah, Matthew Golden, Jaden Reed are better than him right now because they can catch the ball, at least on somewhat of an occasion. Wicks is one of those who, one of these guys is going to not be there, whether it's Doubs, Wicks, Christian Watson. One of them will be gone. I would be shocked if all of them are there this season, especially with Watson trending towards playing soon. But next year, one of them is going to be gone for sure. And I think Wicks is one of those guys I want to take a shot on because if he hits, he can. Why can't he be a George Pickens level player? It's obviously much more of a risk than Pickens. We haven't seen it as much. But if he can get the hands again from crap to average, he has so much in his game. He's a great separator, one of the better separators in the league. Again, 2024 was down, but I'm willing to chalk that up to he was just so in his head with the drops that everything else kind of fell off, just things rolling downhill. But his rookie profile was insane. Especially for a 5th round pick, where he had almost green route tree, again, through reception perception. And I think he can really do everything. He separates well, is pretty good in contested areas, again, if the hands work. And he can play all 3 receiver positions, so you have the versatility teams are dying for. There's so many slot-only guys or big. I love like a Cedric Tillman, but he is an X-only receiver. Can't really do much aside from that. So you need the versatility in this age more than anything. Really, if you want to put him as a split out tight end, you could play him in that role. He's big enough to do that. So it's scary, but
Dontavian Wicks needs to get his hands on a jugs machine and literally just catch balls.
Yeah.
Like that's all he should be doing. All he should be doing is working on that machine.
Mm-hmm.
Get some stickum. Make it a little easier than having to practice.
Yeah, but listen, that's still, I mean,
I'm not sure how much that help.
Yeah, I don't think there is enough stickum.
I'll say in Dynasty leagues, like, you can get him for 4th round picks at this point. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take him over over Isaac Tesla or whatever other rookie. I'm going to take the guy who at least he's the Anthony Richardson of receivers, I feel like. But
that is tough.
Hold on. Don't insult him.
The touchdown catch he had week 1 was, oh my Lanta, insane. I think it was week 1. But
yeah, I can't disagree with you on him. It's somebody like if it clicks, It'll be good. That's a big if.
Yeah. And I think he's shown he's never going to be a 1. So I think you're taking this risk that he can be a wide receiver 2 for a team and be a wide receiver 2 on your fantasy team is the hope.
You got to think they would trade one of those guys, right? Get something for him before the season.
Why
There's
not?
a lot of. I mean, the Jets could use a guy.
Right?
Jets could use like 3.
The Steelers could
you
use a
shut
guy.
your mouth.
God. What happens with Garrett?
I don't have the power to get rid of you anymore. I would have kicked you right off this screen. Oh.
Joe, don't do it.
I'm not going to do it.
I mean,
if anything, I'll kick myself off. Get your popcorn ready.
All right.
Pittsburgh could use him, right?
Yeah. There's a ton of teams who could use a good wide receiver 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Or 4.
Yeah.
You shut your mouth. All right. Next up. I mentioned cheating a little bit earlier when we talked about Stafford, but this one, I mean it this time. This pick really feels like cheating. I went with Theo Johnson, combine legend, athletic freak, somehow still Penn State.
Heyo.
He's ranked as the tight end 36. His ADP is tight end 30. So last year he finished as the tight end 35. So that seems about right. However, let's start with PFF. Now, he played 12 games last year. So overall, he graded out as the tight end 60. Not good. Jameson, that's not good. But let's look at the progression. His first 4 games, 47.65 grade. Yikes. Middle 4, 55.88. That's some improvement. Last 4, 64.25. Now that shows some growth. Okay, Jameson, I know you hate PFF. Their grades they're not. He didn't say that. I'm saying that for him. But it shows that the kid is coachable, right? And that's just real football. We haven't even touched fantasy. So let's look at that same 3 sections for his fantasy production. Weeks 1 through 4, 1.68 points per game, tight end 53. Weeks 5 through 8, 5.58 points per game, tight end 40. And weeks 9 through 12 before his injury, 9.75 points per game, tight end 16. That is real measurable development. And if that trend continues, we're looking at a guy who's dirt cheap and rising fast. No, he is not going to be a top 5 tight end. But in tight end premium or 2 tight end leagues as your last pick,
hell yeah,
Theo Johnson is worth that shot, folks. Right after you take Will Shipley in the 21st round and Dontavian Wicks in the 20th, smash Theo Johnson. Right? I'm not alone on that. This is a Penn State podcast. What do you think, J-Mo?
I think you're right here. I think Theo Johnson, especially the quarterback, I don't know if you're going to call it an upgrade. If Jackson Dart comes in and starts slinging it a little bit, I think it sets up really well for Theo as well. Just the receptions. We know what Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson are. We have done this, it seems like 15 years now. Nothing's changed outside of Darius Slayton getting like a 3-year contract, which whoever did that.
Good for Darius Slayton. Like, good job, dude.
Good for him.
Get your bag.
Whoever handed that out probably needs drug tested, but I digress. But still, Theo Johnson ends up just a great late round dart throw, especially for these tight ends here. I think there's a viable path for him to not say get there to the top, but I mean to just have production. We are in the tight end hell where for years we have scraped for anything, just crumbs, and now we are starting to slowly got like some loaves of bread on the table. So I think that's what I'd compare Theo Johnson to. Terrible comparison. Just you can boot me off now, Joe. But
no.
Sniper Mel just showed up. Sniper, we just talked about Dontavian Wicks and you weren't here. We said good things. You'll be happy.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts about Theo?
I'm so pissed that he was in the doc when I got here. When we started this exercise last week, I was like, I'm going to snag Theo as my sleeper, not even as stash, as sleeper. I have him. I think he's going to be a top 15 tight end this year. Like, I'm going to take him over Zach Ertz, or I'd rather him over Zach Ertz and Kyle Pitts, Cole Kmet, JT Sanders, Jawan Johnson, the Seahawks guys. Yes, easily. Like, I don't love the quarterbacks in New York at all. I'm not a Jackson Dart guy. I don't whatsoever, but I mean, he's super good. We talk about the no block, no rock. He's a really good blocker. And even when he struggles, he puts so much effort into it. He's a freaking freak. Like, he had a 9.8 RAS. It's like, he started over Tyler Warren for the last 2 years at Penn State and was significantly better than him. Tyler Warren also gives me hope that Dontavian Wicks can catch, since Warren had like a 25% drop rate his first couple of years at Penn State. Tangent, sorry. But Theo, this is a great pick. I think this is the best pick of this whole thing, and I'm angry about it.
Yeah, Noah Fant is being drafted ahead of him, and seeing that as a fact makes me want to punch Jameson. And I don't want to punch Jameson because I love him. Mel, I am only on a pod twice per week. Thank you for asking. And my IDP, I don't know. It's going all right. It's going all right. We're in a draft together. Joe's in that draft right now. The Michael Scott 5K fun run for the cause. But yeah, I like my first couple picks. I'm doing all linebackers. What are you doing, Joe? I need your help. We're going to talk after the pod.
We'll chat.
Yeah, we have to chat.
We'll chat.
We're going to have a private IDP coaching session.
I will not be a part of it.
No, Joe's in mine. J-Mo's not in any. He swore off IDP and he's cutting down his leagues.
I'm one and done. And
I'm proud of you. Less leagues is good for the mental health.
It's July 3rd, and I've done very good so far. I've made my first rounds of, hey, we'd love to have you back, and I just sorry that don't work for me, brother, this year. I just I'm trying my best. Everybody says it every year, and then they end up in 30. I might end up in 25.
some of us are trying to find a cure for breast cancer.
Really?
Really? Jesus. Okay,
no,
JJ's going to timeout.
Thank you. Now I got to move. Wrong way. There we go. I look like Dory on Finding Nemo's.
I didn't. I am so sorry. I will not say anything mean again.
Man, brutal.
I did not like getting put into that box.
That's not fun.
I enjoyed the arm flailing.
I'm in there every week for like minutes at a time. I feel like I'm drowning and nobody comes for help.
Calling my emotional support dog.
Oh.
Wow. Great pick of Theo Johnson.
Thank you. At least I did something good.
IDP's fun, but maddening.
It is maddening. It is maddening. All right, people. It is time for tags to let people know where they can find us and any final thoughts that we might have. JMO?
I'm over on the Twitter machine at Jameson Rules in the Discord. If it sounds like I'm underwater, it's because the allergies hit midway through the show, so I apologize for that. But other than that, that's all I got. Not playing IDP. And I'm not watching the Boston Red Sox. Tired of that sorry-ass team. So, as always, we got Kyler Murray. We got Red Sox talk. I'm starting to melt down, so I'm just going to pass it to Joe.
Do you want to talk about your cable provider?
I do not. I do not want to talk about who's actually held up. Spectrum, internet, and cable. You are number one in my book. So I give my middle finger underneath the table because this is a PG show. But they've held up for me, and I know they're listening, so they'll probably escort me and kick me off here in a minute. So, like I said, I'm trying to behave.
JJ send you out there.
It so is. It so is. All right, Joe.
You can find me on the X Machine, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and Blue Sky at Jolo63. Same in the Discord. Right now, I am working on some Dynasty IDP risers and fallers. I think I have a Chop Robinson team of the pod coming out tomorrow. We'll have some other ones coming out throughout the week. And little preview in a few weeks, I will be doing a extension on the Roddies for AFC and NFC, but hitting IDP only. I think those will be in a couple weeks. We need to get the IDP risers and fallers going first, but take a look out for those. You can also, if you want to chat cats, Orioles, unfortunately, I don't want to talk about them. They make me sad as well. Yeah, you can find me there.
All right. I'm at JJ Wenner, mostly on Blue Sky, but I am still on X a little bit. Thank you to Joe, Jameson, and the crew at Fantasy and Frames. I appreciate you guys as always. We're going to be back next week on Thursday, 8 p.m. Joe won't be here, though. So JMO and I have to figure out what we're going to do yet. But until then,
got to get along too.
What?
We got to get along as well.
Oh, we'll get along.
Goodness.
I'm going to be in control so I can put you into your box of shame.
I will miss you guys the next couple of weeks. I'll be gone the next 2 weeks.
The next 2
weeks.
I need to emotionally prepare for that.
But
until then,
I'll miss you guys.
Remember, love yourself. Know your worth. You are enough. Boat drinks, my friends. Boat drinks.